That's exactly how the question should be posed. Like, what will Ukraine bring to European project itself? Well, first and foremost, this is a stability and strength. And we made our choice as one of the biggest countries of Europe that we want to strengthen the United Europe, and we applied for membership. And we expect that by the reforms, resilience, and the capacity we've shown, it is seen that Ukraine will make European Union stronger. In fact, in a long-lasting, in a longer perspective, it might sound very ambitious, but it is the reality. Ukraine has been a trustworthy and reliable partner for years for European Union in terms of the gas supplies, in terms of the integration with the electricity market, in terms of trade. Ukraine over the last 8 years has become one of top 20 largest trading partner of European Union. In the middle of war, we managed to integrate the INSOE and become part of European electricity market and ensure the reliable supplies and operation of the market throughout all of this 110 days of war without providing even a smaller or minor doubt of the reliability of our institutions and market, as well as throughout last 20 years, despite the fact that Ukraine has been permanently blackmailed by different gas deals and gas manipulations from Russian Federation, from the last 4 presidents to prime ministers, we have faced a gas crisis of 2006 and 2008 and moreover after that. And we abandoned the purchase of Russian gas since 2014. Throughout all of these crises, we remained as the reliable gas supplier and transitor throughout the last 20 years, despite all the crises we've seen and you also see. And now in this 110 days of war, we remain a reliable gas supplier to Europe, despite the crises we see. The same, I'm mentioning it just to mention that even in times of war, with all the blocked ports in the seas of Ukraine and the affected food crisis by this war started by Russian Federation on 24th of February, we still remain a reliable grain supplier to European Union. We established together with the EU the green corridors and enabled the release of the grains through land, but also through Danube River to the Black Sea. And that shows that whenever we reach some agreement and whenever we reach some commitment, we deliver on our promises. We signed the association agreement and we implemented 70% of all the legal obligations under that. We were granted the visa liberalization and we fulfilled all the criteria, and none of the EU citizens has faced any inconvenience following these 5 years of visa liberalization. So all the preconditions and cautiousness which has been before these decisions has been taken has not came true. We remain a sustainable and reliable partner.
Now the question is what Ukraine will bring to European Union, what kind of benefits it can really carry on with it. And this is very obvious from the business perspective and from the pragmatic point of view. Obviously, Ukraine will bring people. People in Ukraine are really very talented, and it seems to be nowadays everybody can see that already in European Union, that people of Ukraine are pretty creative, they are well educated, they are speaking languages, and they are also ready to work. One may also be scared that probably this, diversity, this dynamism of people can also make competition more vivid in the countries of European Union. But at the same time, one must underline that European values is all about freedom and all about competition as well. And it seems to me that in case Europe will make a wall between Ukraine and European Union just because of the, being afraid of competition, it would not be probably the right way of, progressing of European project. So people is one of the options, one of the benefits, which obviously will Ukraine bring to European Union. And also I would like to underline that people of Ukraine are really very patriotic and they would like to come back to Ukraine, as we also see already at the moment. We see more people are returning to Ukraine rather than they're leaving the country. So it means they will not flood the European Union. They will just bring added value to European Union by means of the, educated and intellect. The second point which Ukrainians and Ukraine will bring to the European project is food security. Obviously, this is something which is on the agenda, and thanks to European countries, neighboring countries, Ukraine is now resolving the issue of logistics, which is a big bottleneck for majority of companies. But in case Ukraine will win, obviously, food security will be on European continent. This is something which goes without saying. And European companies really understand that. They have lots of production facilities in Ukraine. And Ukraine will probably most likely will seek for the way of extending the food chain and production chain actually in Ukraine, which will also contribute to the welfare of Europe. The third pillar which Ukrainians and Ukraine will bring to European Union would be physical security, because this is also undiscussable and something which does not need to be proved. Ukrainians are fighting to death for their freedom, for their existence, and this is something which most likely many Europeans will not be ready for that. But at this current point of time, Ukrainians just confirm that there will be really physical security to European continent, because in case, let's imagine the fact that in case Ukraine will not be given candidacy, any positive signs in the end of the tunnel, and there would be some alternatives whatsoever options, obviously people will be depressed. They will be completely depressed, and it will be quite big question mark where the country will eventually go. And I do not want to actually to dwell on this, but I do want to reiterate. So it's better for European Union to really grant some candidacy to Ukraine, so that to allow this physical security, to allow food security, and to allow also injection of bright and dynamic people in order to revive the business potential and entrepreneurial potential as well of the whole European family.
Ukraine has signed the association agreement with the European Union in 2014. Since then, Ukraine has been in a war with Russia. So 8 years we have been fighting, practically defending European values and democracy. During this time, we have implemented a number of steps, especially in progressing reforms and structural reforms, in order to execute this association agreement and get closer to the integration. We have analyzed and came to a conclusion that 63% is the current progress in execution of these criteria. And several strategic things have been implemented in Ukraine already, starting from public procurement, electronic declaration system, then digital transformation, in which Ukraine is a champion in, and many more. And I think that Ukraine is absolutely ready to start this race for the European integration, is absolutely ready to be a candidate. I'm not talking about the physical security, but we should never forget Ukraine has an actual army in Europe right now, and the bravest army in Europe right now. But I'm talking about the food security. We all understand Ukraine is a strategic player on the world food security market. We see the dependence of other countries in Africa and Middle East to the products Ukraine is exporting. And it is definitely a huge, from one side an instrument, from another side a food security element for the European Union. Another thing is, of course, Ukrainian human capital we all know about it, and I think it's clearly understood that it's already partially integrated into the European economy. Then we can speak about the 32 million of hectares of Ukrainian cultivated land, and again, agro segment. Then information technology, IT, which is, again, Ukraine is a champion in digitalization, and we are, I think, the most digitalized nation in the European Union for the moment, and it's absolutely obvious. And many more other reasons that brings Ukraine to the European Union membership.
We do believe that the European vector for Ukrainian economy is challenging from one side, but from other side, it's not something we would like to, to do with some preferences. We are ready to do it on the basis of fair partnership, fair competition. And from my point of view, it's not something, it's not wishful thinking. It's a fact. I would like to, to give you a couple of examples. For example, probably you know that Ukraine, exactly on the day when war was started by Russia, was on the planned process of disconnecting from Russia energy I don't know in English, Russia energy field, and connecting to European one. It was like a short, it should be like a short experiment for 4 days, like test. The whole process named NSOE, when we were moving out of Russia toward the Ukraine from the point of view of energy society, and it was a plan. And definitely after war was started, we never was connected to Russia energy society again, and we are already the part of Europe from the point of view of energy connection. And the tech, one of our biggest businesses, energy business, was the biggest ambassador of this European movement from the point of view of energy. It's really important to say that it's not only because we would like to be symbolically part of Europe. It's just because we are a big and very important partner in energy security. It's exactly what Oleksiy said. We are already, but our potential as an energy partner for Europe is huge. It's amazing. We could help Europe to compensate the loss of Russian coal or and other Russian energy, including gas, until 2030. Up to 30%. So this partnership is not something which need some magic stuff. It's absolutely a real story. It's absolutely a real plan, and this candidacy could help Ukraine understand that Europe really wanted, and to invest hardly in our green energy, in gas development, so in clean type of energies to support Europe in this transition. Definitely, it would be modernization of Ukraine, and definitely Europe would be part of this modernization on the level of institutional donors. But this modernization is a huge market. And Ukraine is a huge market. And without this signal, I don't think that European investors would be ready to invest in this modernization. Institutions, yes, like EBRD, IMF, etc. But investors, I don't think so. And then we will see here in Ukraine other investors from China, from Middle East, etc. They will come. They are more risky. They definitely not the guys with European values, but they would be interesting just to bring their money over here. As far as you know, the nature is not tolerant for I don't know English, sorry, for the empty. So any market would receive money. And the question is, what is the origin of this money? We would prefer European money, European partners, European corporations. But if Europe would choose not to, treat us as a partner, unfortunately, somebody else would come, and it's unavoidable. So this is why this signal is absolutely practical, not only for Ukraine, but also for Europe. It's like a message that we need this market, we believe in this market, we want this market.
We had like two statements issued just over the last month, one with a focus on the anti-corruption reform and the second one with a more wider focus. Because while the European Union is reluctant to acknowledge the huge progress Ukraine has done to fight against corruption, one person has already done this, and this is Vladimir Putin. In his speech 2 days before the war on the 21st of February, he named and listed all of the anti-corruption institutions which we managed to establish in Ukraine. He attacked the ongoing judicial reform, claiming that we gave up our sovereignty because we started cleansing the judicial governance bodies with the participation of the brilliant reputation external experts, outsiders. And as the result of this reform, 70% of the members, corrupt members of the judicial governance bodies, resigned themselves because they know that they won't pass the scrutiny, and they did not even want to be fired with the scandal. Ukraine managed to introduce a lot of different transparency tools, like, again, electronic asset declaration system with all of the public officials, starting with the president, ending with the village council members, have to declare their income and assets. And it is not only about transparency. The accountability comes in case there is the mismatch between the official incomes and the lifestyles of officials. All public procurements, which previously used to be a huge corruption loophole with the prices overstated by 20-50%, are right now moved into online electronic system Prozoro, which, according to the estimations, helps not only to avoid corruption, but even to reduce the prices of the procurement, because the bidding is done on the competitive approach of auction system. Obviously, we managed to build from scratch anti-corruption institutions that are tasked with fighting against high-profile corruption. And they managed to prove that there are no untouchables in Ukraine anymore. And as the last institution, anti-corruption court, started to be operational only in 2019, so it has been working for 2 years. As of now, more than 50 verdicts are already fully enacted. So they passed the first and the second instance. And these are mostly cases against judicial bribery, but also there are cases against members of parliament, former ministers. This is a very clear signal to the system that business as usual, which used to be blooming before the revolution of dignity, is not working anymore. Not only the government, not only the parliament is working during the wartime, but even anti-corruption institutions are working. NABU is sending cases to courts. The court has issued 9 verdicts since the 24th of February. The agencies confiscated assets of corrupt proceeds and bails amounting to $15 million. And this money was sent directly to the needs of the armed forces, meaning that not only justice is being served, but there is a very practical dimension of the ongoing fight against corruption, which was not disrupted by the war. The judicial reform, which I said, it was disrupted for a few weeks when the large-scale war started, but it was recently resumed, and we are expecting to have the first stage of the full rebootal of the judicial governance bodies to be complete by over the next few months. That is why we are absolutely convinced that Ukraine has already deserved EU candidate status.
European integration is nothing to do with, some unforeseen perspective in the future. That's what we are living already today. That's about more than 80 laws that Ukrainian Parliament of the 9th convocation has managed to pass easily, with a vast majority and sometimes constitutional majority of support. And that does take for us a great opportunity to look at them technically. So it's about the air pollution. It's about the baby food safety. I was literally in tears when we passed it in the whole of the parliament, because it has never been at place for 30 years of the existence of Ukraine. It's about the waste management law, which we will vote in the beginning of next week. And regardless the bumpy road, Annika, you've mentioned, every law has a bumpy road. Even getting back on track with the responsibility for fake declarations for representatives of different level of society, not only politicians, but everyone who is dealing with the government, was a matter of a week. So I would say the political will of the parliament was specifically there from 2019, so that the progress with which was mentioned by the minister Chernyshov of a 63% was there also because of the political will. And it wasn't, a dimension of political parties. I think we are, as now, Team Ukraine, in the same manner when we talk about European integration from 2019. So it takes a little wider perspective since the full-scale invasion. We understand how challenging it was from the 2014, but the very prominent reform of the decentralization, when now from the very bottom level of the local, let's say, leaders, population, citizens, up to the bottom to Kiev, people can decide for themselves about the taxes to be spent, about the taxes to be actually incorporated in the daily life. What do we transfer it for? I am speaking right now from the second largest city, Kharkiv, which is being targeted every night. So let's say last night it was more or less okay in the town itself, but not at the outskirts. But the night before, 7 missiles attacked my constituency and beyond. So I would call it a candidacy under the rockets, a candidacy regardless the war, a candidacy which is a political decision, and a candidacy which is fairly, which should be fairly awarded to Ukraine. And I would definitely agree with Olena when she said that it's not a gift taken. That's some very hard homework we've been going through.